Thanks for coming on. I saw you're on a very fancy podcast, almost like a TV show. You
Yeah, the
posted on
production
Twitter
quality
today.
of that one's pretty cool. So I'm still like, whenever I watched, it, I'm like, damn, this is really good.
Yeah, you're like in the living room. Like it's like, man, I feel like I'm watching like Conan or something.
But Disney Parks edition, right?
Yeah, Disney Parks Conan. Pretty
Yeah,
cool. Man, so for those of you who don't know, on Twitter, he's Disney Juju. You have your own YouTube channel as well. I'll put it in the down links in the down below. But
thank you.
you're the Tiana expert. I think you know more about Tiana than Disney does.
Yeah, I've been thinking lately. Like, I honestly feel like I know just as much about this project at this point as like the project team itself, just from being fortunate enough to be on site and see everything happening. I'm like, at this point, I'm like, the only things I don't know are quite literally what's inside because they haven't said. But I've been very grateful to be able to share everything, and it's been a fun ride to say the least. No pun intended.
Yeah, and for us West Coasters and for everyone out there, your near daily updates have been pretty up from press, especially with the testing and the daytime, nighttime lighting packages. Like you're like some of the first to like report this stuff, which is pretty
Yeah.
cool. And you have, I mean, come on, I know you won't be on any media invite, but you should be because you
Thanks,
should be
man.
on that June 9th, man.
I'll get there
But
one day. I'll get there one day. I got to motivate myself to work harder. But I mean, at the end of the day, though, like you said, the cool thing is that I've been so lucky to catch so many cool milestones at this point that like that's exactly what I could have asked for when it comes to this. Like
mhm.
I had things that were in my Twitter drafts. I'm like, oh, if this happens, then I can tweet it, and it happened. So that's pretty much all I could have ever asked for, and the fact that that happened is really cool.
So what inspired you for this specific project to go ahead and take pictures? Was it your YouTube channel? What you just you were
Yeah, so
excited
like
about this product in general?
So I love Splash Mountain, but I always got like a really good vibe about this project from day one,
Mhm.
and just the
As in
creative
like
team.
2020 when it was the first
Yeah,
piece of
yeah,
concept.
yeah, yeah. Just because
Wow.
like we have the technology now to where everything new is so
Mhm.
much better in a technological stance. Not that stuff from like the 50s and 60s is bad by any means,
Mhm.
but I definitely love the animatronics with these things and the new and up to date technology. But more specifically, back in January of this year, whenever NOLA.com got that tour, is when I was really like, oh, this thing's a lot closer than we might have thought, because they dropped the late 2024 off of the promotional material about
Mhm.
mid last year, I think it was. And that's when I'm like, are they taking off the late 2024 to try to get people to book trips now? Or is that because this attraction's opening sooner? And then once they got that tour in January, I'm like, oh, this thing's actually
Mhm.
pretty close to being done. So once all the scaffolding started to come down and we got that tour, that's when I really kind of clicked into I have a chance to do something here that no one else has ever done. And that's I want to document this attraction in quite literally every single way. And now we're in the middle of May. So it's been over 5 months now that I've really been documenting it. But I think between the NOLA.com article on January 5th, I believe, and kind of when I was at the parks in like November-ish is when scaffolding started to
Mhm.
come down and we started to see some major progress. But that's when I was kind of like, this thing's closer than a lot of people think it is, and no one is talking about it. And when I started to really like dive into the research and stuff that they had released over the previous, 6 to 12 months, I also realized that there was information that I didn't even know at the time.
So
So between putting all of that together and then going to the park and documenting everything in the photos and the videos, it kind of turned into this really cool thing that everyone has loved, and it's reached an audience larger than I ever thought it could have. But I'm very grateful for it, and I'm to say I'm excited to ride it. It's going to be one of the coolest moments of my life for sure.
yeah, that's because again, it just felt like you came out of nowhere. Oh, yeah, that you start tweeting out of nowhere. I'm like,
Yeah.
wow. I mean, that's like insane. And are you gonna make? Because you said you had stuff in your drafts that you may have now posted. Are you gonna make like one big like collage or like poster to put in your frame,
Yeah,
like
so like
all
it's
your
funny you mentioned
construction
that because
progress?
I have stuff in my drafts right now, like in case Disney drops it, because it just allows me to get stuff up quicker. But I was thinking like going into opening day, kind of doing like a giant thread of like
Mhm.
all of the major points of like what to expect when this attraction opens. Kind of like
Mhm.
if you know
Mhm.
absolutely nothing, you can go through this like thread of posts, and within 15 minutes you can know the entire storyline. And especially knowing that we're going to be getting the entire like reveal of this thing between June 9th and June 11th, we know that it's going to be revealed to the world well before it officially opens. So I know I want to do a giant like hype up video to kind of like the drop on opening day, kind of recapping this last 4 year journey, because it was announced on June 25th, 2020, and it's
Mhm.
opening on June 28th, 2024. So it's
It's
exactly
almost
4 years.
exactly, yeah, 4
It's
years.
exactly 4 years, yeah, which is pretty cool. And I mean, 4 years isn't quick by any means, but the fact that Splash didn't close until January 22nd to 2023, the turnaround time on the construction is impressive. And I'll give them credit for that. They had a mission and they got that mission done. And like yourself over at Disneyland, I think like something that I've been thinking about lately is now that the attraction's pretty much done here at Walt Disney World, this entire project team can now focus on Disneyland. So
Mhm.
even though it's going to be opening at Disneyland in the fall, I'm really hoping that it's earlier in the fall. And I think that even that opening time frame could surprise people in terms of, instead of maybe Thanksgiving, which would make sense, and I wouldn't be shocked if it opens around Thanksgiving. I really hope that it's around October, because you know as well as I do that they love that October 1st date when the new fiscal year starts. So we shall
Mhm.
see. But if I had to pick like a perfect day for it to open at Disneyland, I would say October 1st. But I have absolutely no information on that. That's just me speculating because I love speculating.
Yeah, and because like was it like yesterday? I think some post the conveyor belt was already testing. So
Yeah, Enzo's
August week
trigger, I
coming
think.
up, and
Yeah,
Enzo,
it's
yeah,
gonna be
he's like the West Coast Disney Drew dude there.
yeah. Enzo's been doing a really good job covering it out there, and Enzo's pictures, like the quality of them, and like I don't know what filters they're using, but they're really good
Mhm.
quality. Everything I do on my phone with like out any filters or anything, so I
Mhm.
have a fantastic phone for content, but I definitely would be able to get like a lot more detailed shots if I did like professional camera stuff.
Yeah, and so what are your expectations for the ride? So we obviously see what's going on outside, but what do you
Yeah.
think is going on the inside?
So
'Cause like
I,
I
I've
think
already said it. Like, yeah, I've
you're
already said
doing
it
a
on
better
Twitter, but
marketing team than Disney.
I firmly believe that this is going to be one of the best attractions in the world. I every time I picture, like I've done this for years. I haven't really talked about it just because I don't do stuff like this often. But
Mhm.
even I think the first attraction where I really started to visualize what it was going to be like was Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind.
Mhm.
And before Tiana, that was the closest attraction I'd followed. I followed Rise super closely, but nowhere near as close as I did Runaway Railway. And then I started to follow, Cosmic, but it was nowhere near as, it was even more than Runaway Railway. So I just keep going to a higher level each time.
Mhm.
But I really think that this is going to be one of the best attractions in the world, specifically because of how the creative team has talked about their intentions with it, and
Mhm.
acknowledging why people love Splash Mountain and kind of wanting to build on that legacy with like this musical journey. And the fact that we're getting these critter animatronics and the characters that we know and love from the movie, it kind of brings the best of both worlds to one attraction. So between all of the characters and all the animatronics and the physical stuff, then I'm wondering how can they incorporate all of the other tried and true technology that Imagineering has now and has had forever. And then you take that and you add that on top of everything else. I think that it's going to be incredible. Like I can't see it not being incredible, but there is one thing that I haven't talked about anywhere, and Disney talked about this. I think it was in December of 2022. It was when they revealed that new scene for the first time. They said that we're
Mhm.
going to be floating under fireflies. So
Oh yeah.
my personal hope is that whenever the logs kind of drop in, is that the
Mhm.
fireflies will react to each log going by. So rather than it being like something that's constantly happening, it's more of like
Mhm.
a timed effect. So I think that that could be like a fantastic effect, kind of having the fireflies react as if like a bioluminescence, like as if you were to touch it,
Mhm.
and then just having like the animatronics directly talking to us. I think that's going to be unique because there's so many like book report rides where you're kind of just spectating in a sense and taking everything in happening
Mhm.
around you. But when we're in the story and we're going to find these critters and Tiana needs our help, I think it's going to be cool to see how they program the animatronics themselves to the logs, because they're going to be looking directly at us, directly addressing us. And then you have the critters, like I mentioned, on top of that, 17 original critter characters with three different scenes at least, with three different styles of music: the Zydeco, Afro Cuban, and Rah Rah. It's like there's so much stuff that's been officially revealed that gets me excited, but then it's like whenever all of us go on it for the first time or watch the videos that they reveal and seeing it all of it come together for this 10-minute long
Mhm.
thing, it's I just like I said, I've already said it multiple times, but I truly can't see myself not loving it at this point, just from speculation and expectation on top of what's been officially revealed, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought the music because I remember at first they mentioned potential original music, and I got a little scared because I'm like, oh man, I really like the soundtrack from Princess the Frog. So I'm glad
Yeah.
they decided to, while having original music, to also bring back the iconic songs from the movie, like when you once again did that, got the video of the music testing. I
Yep.
watched that like 50 times. It was like, yes, it's a
Mhm.
good song. It's a good song. Then it
Yeah,
got
the
me
thing
actually
that I
10
think
times more
is
excited about it.
yeah, the thing that I think is interesting with it is kind of how with, like, Frozen Ever After per se, they took a lot of the original music, but they added some,
Mhm,
like, originality to it, but it doesn't seem like
mhm,
they decided to go that route with this attraction. Not that that's a bad thing, but it's more of interesting kind of having, like, a direct, one by one of the movie translated to the ride.
mhm,
But I do like that, like, coming out of the load station, I've posted about this multiple times, but there's an instrumental of Down in New Orleans, and then how it
mhm,
transitions into the lyrics. I do like how it goes from instrumental to lyrical, kind of like keeping the energy in the area alive because you'll be able to hear that outside. And it's not super loud
mhm,
in person. I know in the videos it sounds loud because you can like adjust the volume level, but in person it sounds fine and you can still
mhm,
hear all the Frontierland music. But
mhm,
talking about the music a little bit too, that first scene when we drop into is the Zydeco
mhm,
scene, and Gonna Take You There is the song that's gonna be playing there. And that is a Zydeco song in the film. So it's like the perfect choice because we quite literally are going down the bayou in the log, but it also is a Zydeco song to begin with. So whenever they decided to have the critters playing Zydeco music, you can't have a better song than that. And like you said, having songs from the movie, everyone already loves that. So why change something that's not broken?
Exactly, and and that the instrumental to lyric portion on the outside, I like that because that kind of pays homage to Splash Mountain. They had the same
Hmm.
thing with like how they do had the instrumental that went to lyrics. So I'm
Yep.
glad they're keeping that because that's a cool vibe. I always really like that vibe, and it really it adds a lot of energy just to people walking by on the bridge. You can hear the music. Again,
Agreed.
it's not blaring, but you can hear it. So it adds that kineticism, adds that energy. Then it'll be a quite a Mardi Gras party, so to speak,
Yeah, agreed. 100%.
over the bridge.
And I think just like having something that's instantly recognizable isn't bad either because The Princess and the Frog was already, it gained a lot of popularity since when it first came out. I know there's like a lot of talk about, 2D animation was killed because of The Princess and the Frog, and everyone's gonna have their own opinion on that. But personally, I've watched the movie twice recently. I love it. It's grown on me a lot personally, mainly because of the ride. I never had watched The Princess and the Frog until Tiana's Bayou Adventure was announced. And then once they announced it, I'm like, okay, this is coming. I want to learn about this. I watched it. I'm like, oh, this is a pretty good movie. I love the music. It's one of my, as of now, it's one of my favorite soundtracks ever. So I think
Mhm,
taking, like you said, having some of that instantly recognizable stuff, which brings the energy to the area. And then mainly the main thing that I'm excited for on the entire attraction is the finale, which I know a lot of people are. But that's mainly because we're getting the original song there by PJ Morton. And I think that this song is
mhm,
going to be jaw dropping, which I think a lot of the attractions going to be jaw dropping, but specifically the finale with that song. And it's not something that I've posted about because I haven't been able to get a video of it. And quite frankly, I wouldn't want to post about it because I know that Disney wants to save it for their reveal, which I can respect.
mhm.
But I've heard some of the instrumentals in that song in the finale just from standing outside, and it sounds like a
Mhm.
very quick paced, upbeat. I heard like a tambourine and a trumpet and Ralphie on the drums, like hitting the cymbal. I've heard that from in the clip.
Ah,
So I
that's
also
actually pretty
think that
cool.
I've heard Tiana and Naveen singing together, but that's like I can't confirm that because the instrumentals line up with the singing, and the instrumentals
Mhm.
definitely are more powerful than the lyrics. So like I said, it's one of those things that I've heard in the park but haven't really been able to post, and I don't want to post it quite frankly. But I do think that that song, from what I've heard, is like super quick pace, and it's the perfect for a party. So I'm ready to say the least. That's pretty much all I can
Yeah,
say on that.
yeah.
We've already talked about it so much, to be fair. So
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited to hear that Disneyland's first when they start testing their music 'cause,
yeah,
I'm right over here. Um, so the facades that you mentioned that you heard about in 20, it's been sized since 2020. They built a piece of concept art with the Mamoru
mhm,
ship. It's changed since then. What do you think
yeah.
about the facade? Tiana's tower or the tiara on the tower, the moss, uh, great, neutral. Better or worse? Amazing? What do you think?
Yeah, so I don't think it's like the greatest thing ever, but I also think it's exactly what their goal was. I think that
Hmm.
personally, I think the announcement with that original piece of concept art was the worst thing that they could have done because it was very
Hmm.
clearly an early blue sky concept. And now we're
Yeah.
confirmed because the Tiana and Lewis were literally just PNGs outside and the briar
Hmm.
patch was still there. Now, did I love the concept for Mama Odie's boat on top? Absolutely. Do I wish we would have got that? Absolutely. But it goes without saying that there's so much concept art that goes through Walt Disney Imagineering that we never see,
Hmm.
and I think that this is one of those things that we should have never saw. If they had never have dropped it, I think the attraction to this day would have a better representation around it because they set the expectations so high with this incredible boat on top, kind of keeping that same vibe from Splash, where you have like this giant
Hmm.
focal point. And I
Hmm.
will say, well, I think the top is fine because at the end of the day, it's a Sol dome. And at least at Walt
Hmm.
Disney World, it literally looks like a dome, like it's kind of perfectly
Hmm.
rounded. And this is like a super detailed like look at it, but even at Walt Disney World, like part of the way that they sculpted the new rock work, it kind of draws focus to the drop, which I think looks cool. But I will say
Hmm.
at Disneyland, I'm not a fan at all of it. Like that's one of the few things where I don't like.
Yeah, that's I was gonna mention that
Yeah,
because, but I was gonna reserve because we're still in construction. I'm like, just the scaffolding's off. Maybe I'm thinking
yeah,
maybe
that's what I
they
was
need
gonna
to
say. Is
do something over there,
mhm,
and maybe they'll like fill it in because it is
mhm,
quite lopsided a little bit. But I'm
yeah,
like, they're still working on the right side, so maybe they'll because like it was even with the lands at Epic Universe. I don't know if you find that construction, but
yeah,
specifically the Harry Potter land, scaffolding came down, but they came back up to put on some details. So I'm
mhm,
hoping maybe for Tiana at Disneyland, whatever they're whenever they're done with closing the drop and working on the right side, they'll kind of even it out
yeah.
a little bit because
You
Disney
took the
World
words
does
right
look
out of my
better.
mouth. Like whenever I look at Walt Disney World, it looks like because like there's no mountains in Louisiana, but there's also no
Mhm.
boats that go through rides. So it's like whenever people criticize this stuff, I'm like, there's no boats that go through Elsa's Ice Palace either. You know, it's an attraction. So it's like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like if we're gonna criticize everything, we never would find any joy in life. So it's like I think that they did exactly what they wanted to. And we got the dome at Walt Disney World, and I think it looks perfectly fine. And I've seen it over 40 times now with my own eyes. And every time I go, I think it looks prettier and I get more used to it. And coming back to your comment on the water tower, I personally love the water tower. I think the tiara is actually a perfect representation of kind of Tiana transforming the salt mine to her own, even more than
Mhm.
the mural on the barn. Personally, I don't like the mural on the barn. I feel like it's kind of gives off like a kindergarten project type vibe.
Yeah, yeah, I think it's
The
really because
artwork,
of that color. If those
yeah,
different color, I feel like it would be much better.
yeah, not that the artwork is bad. Like I think her name is Malika or Malika Favorite. Like it's just not
Mhm.
my style of artwork. It's not something that I'm gonna
Mhm.
enjoy personally. But I think that the barn itself would have looked a lot better if it kind of had like those Mardi Gras banners or like those like half circle
Mhm.
ribbon things. Kind of like put those up for like a more classy vibe. Have posters up on the barn, kind of showing why are we here to kind of line up with the radio show. But I think when it comes down to what I don't like about this attraction, it's very minimal things. It's kind of like more of like the signage quality and the gumbo
Mhm.
mural like on the mill house and the
And
barn. But in
and
terms of
to
like,
be fair, I mean, you never know because it's finishing touches, but
yeah,
it could be, those signs. Yep, maybe it's temporary. Maybe that gets replaced with a more permanent looking one. Who knows? But you
yeah,
never know until June. But yeah, it's a very tiny thing. Even if it stays the same, it's like a tiny
yeah.
little
At the end of the day, I
overall
truly care
scope.
about at the end of the day, I truly care about like the main facade, the nighttime lighting, and the ride itself. Like, but then at the
Hmm.
same time, I kind of think like if they can put so much incredible effort into the attraction as a whole, why can't the little things be on that same level because
Hmm.
they're little? It's not like that's a massive
Hmm.
budget thing, you
Hmm.
know? So it's like I go
Yeah.
back and forth on that.
Although maybe like I don't know. Like I'm not an accountant, but like I don't know. Maybe if all those little things add up, maybe it leads to one less Tiana
Yeah, that's
animatronic
very
or
true as
something like
well. I'm
that.
I'm
I don't
not
know.
gonna pretend that I
Yeah.
know everything, but it's kind of like
Yeah.
I think back to, like, what we grew up on with these parks with every little detail
Mhm.
being perfect, you know, and it's not that the signs are bad
Mhm.
by any means, but they could be better, especially when you look at, like,
Mhm.
something like the Critter Co-op sign, and it's just
And
perfect. Like, that
oh yeah,
sign
that one's nice in
so
3D and it's so
so
cool.
beautiful. Yeah, and then it's like, I look at the Tiana's food sign on the bar, and it looks like something that was made on Canva, like the poster that I have behind me, and I'm like,
Yeah.
"Where where was the creative, you know,
Yeah.
disconnect here?" and it's just the little things. But to wrap this up full circle, I really do like our facade. I think it looks beautiful. The colors with the flowers in person when the sun is out with no clouds, it looks gorgeous.
Mhm.
But in regards to Disneyland, I really don't like the top. I think it looks lopsided. I think it looks like a piece of
Mhm.
broccoli, quite frankly, like you said.
It does. It
Um,
does.
I don't understand. It's too tall. Like the from where the top
Mhm.
of the drop is to the top of the mountain, it's too tall. But like you said, they can always change things. But I am personally think that because the scaffolding is down, it's down. When it came down at Walt Disney World, it was down for good for like 90%
Yeah.
of it. There was a couple places where they put it back up to add some flowers, but it really didn't change like the major
Mhm.
overall thing. So I'm assuming because that's like the top of the dome that that's done.
Mhm.
But like you said, there's always time to change things, and I never judge something until I see it with my own eyes. And to be fair, I've seen everything
Mhm.
in Walt Disney World with my own eyes, so that's my opinion on that. But I guess
Yeah.
I'll see Disneyland's in August, so at that point I'll be able to have
Yeah.
like an official opinion. And by
Mhm.
then, all the
Yeah.
scaffolding or most of it should be down. So
Yeah. Yeah, but yeah, definitely in person, it definitely looks lopsided. I mean, it's not like horrible. It's not.
no,
I'm
it's not
not like
horrible by any
I'm
means,
not gonna
but
stop, but it's certainly not
I'm
like
not a fan of
like
it. I'll say that. Yeah.
yeah, definitely not like as good as like yours.
Hmm.
And the good thing also with those signs that you're talking about, um, since it is small, all it takes is yeah, maybe not like maybe a year or something down the line, or a little refurbishment. When it
Yep.
usually goes down for winter refurbishment, boom! Hey, look, guys, got a nice new sign. So that's a good thing. It's
Agreed.
easily
100%. 100%.
amendable.
And I think that that's the nice thing about being able to give constructive feedback. One thing about me is I will never just blast something because at the end of the day, there's people working on these and they're doing their best. And also, if you give
Mhm,
constructive feedback, it also can lead to something being done, like you said. So that's why I'm like, what would I do with the barn? Not that I'm an Imagineer, but I would have done the
mhm,
banners and the posters, or I would have kept
mhm,
like the signs. I would have kept the design and motif, with the water lilies, or put the characters on them or something just to like keep consistency. But at the end of the day, the attraction's going to be incredible as a whole, and that's what I truly care about. Kind of like from the second I sit down in the vehicle to the second I get out of the vehicle. But that's pretty much my
mhm,
thought process on that. And most of the time, I just like sharing news anyway because if people are interested in it, and people have been
mhm,
extremely interested in this project more than I would have expected, quite honestly, that's what I care
mhm,
about posting is what are other people interested in, not necessarily myself. And when it comes to this project, I am extremely interested in it, but
mhm,
not always. Sometimes I'm just going to post things because it's news, and that's what I like to do.
mhm,
So,
mhm. Yeah, again, yeah, but this one's project's very interesting because I think because Disney said so little over like you said something we got like piece of concept art, but like years apart. So I think
mhm,
you're kind of like helping to fill in that nice gap because
yeah,
it's kind of like mysterious, be able to see the construction, but they don't know what's happening. It's pretty mysterious. So you're helping nice fill in a nice little gap until Disney actually says official stuff about, which is I think it really hypes up that um hypes up the interest there. One thing I saw you comment on, and I see it's a little bit controversial line. Now, something also that could easily be adjusted and fixed, probably in the test and adjust phase right now, is the mist. One of the sections of the mist comes out as the drop, and I guess the one some of the rumors have you get mist comes out in the indoor drop, and you get transformed into like a small critter, and then the mist comes out again, and you're being transformed again at the end of the
mhm,
drop. Looked you mentioned it looked quite a bit of mist on blocked the view of the castle and blocked nice view. Get
yeah,
again test and adjust phase, and
mhm,
that's probably what
for
they're
sure.
doing right now. So probably we'll see what it looks like on in June. But what do you think about the mist? And what do you think they'll make any adjustments to the
Yeah,
amount
so,
of
like, I
mist?
love the concept of the mist because it actually adds a really cool vibe to the area when you're looking at it from the
Hmm.
outside. It kind of adds this, like, ominous vibe, which I've actually
Hmm.
always gotten from, Mama Odie as a character. She's kind of always been, like, that mysterious, "Who is this voodoo,
Yeah, who
magic
is she?
woman," right? And I love
Hmm.
Mama Odie as a character, and Jennifer Lewis is, like she's such a fantastic voice actress for her. And one of the coolest things, like, when I look back at everything I've documented is I posted about it on Twitter at the time, but I heard dig a little deeper playing at the base of the lift going up to the 50-foot
Ooh,
drop,
that's cool.
and I haven't heard it
Wait a
since.
second. So how did you hear that?
Yeah, so I'll talk about it a little bit. So they were ride testing, and I think that was right after they first started ride testing. So like the entire point I was going into the park was to catch the Imagineers on the ride. And they did a couple of their rides, and then they turned off like the lifts, and the chains on the lifts are pretty
Mhm.
loud. So between Down in New Orleans playing
Ah,
in the pond out front and the
mhm,
chains on the lifts, that's where you can't hear anything because the
Oh,
entire show is
that's
going.
so
But
you can hear your chain because you do have chains on your lift because we have conveyor belts, so you can't really hear ours
yeah,
going
so
up,
like
but you
I
have
don't know if they're
chains
like
on.
chains, but they're the conveyor belts, whatever they are, they make it a lot of noise from the first one coming out of the
Interesting.
load station to going up the lift hill
Mhm.
to the
That
logs
is
coming down the drop to the splash to all of it. It's pretty loud. And then just people walking
wow.
by and the music in Frontierland. But
Yeah.
there was like literally a 5 minute period where it was silent. There was no one walking by. The music in Frontierland was playing, but that was it. There was no parade, no cavalcade. None of the Imagineers were riding, no logs were moving, the water was still. And I heard music, and I put my ear literally right up to the scrim, like my ear was touching the scrim, and I didn't
Mhm.
know if it was a song playing inside or on the finale or in the millhouse. But after listening to it for about 30 seconds, I quite literally heard the words dig a little deeper. And it was so faint that to this day, I couldn't get a video of it. I was questioning what I was hearing myself until I heard the words dig a little deeper. But if you think about it, it's a 50-foot distance going down. And from that
Mhm.
bridge out front to the top of the drop, that's a pretty far distance. And then you have the
Yeah.
entire distance going up the hill. So that's about, I would say, 100 feet of space. And I think the only reason I heard it is because the top of the drop is like that hole, so it kind of like
Mhm.
filters it directly out. But it was so
Mhm.
faint, and I heard the words "dig a little deeper," so I know for a fact that "dig a little deeper" is playing at the base of that lift and on the lift, which it's not really a shock because we saw Mama Odie's bottle lanterns on the model at D23 in
Mhm.
2022. We've known that for a while. I wasn't trying to come across as like exclusive intel, but I mean, hearing something with your own ears for the first time is really
Yeah.
cool, and getting
Mhm.
to share was even cooler. But hearing that was like, whoa. And I'm really hoping it's an original rendition because they brought back the voice cast. So it's like, if you're already putting the time and effort and money into bringing back the cast, you might as well, do an original rendition. And the fact that they've already confirmed that they're bringing the St. Augustine High School marching band on board, it's like they're going to the
Mhm.
lengths to do that. So I think that what I did here was an original rendition, but that's not confirmed by any means. They haven't even confirmed the songs playing. That's just what I heard. So I know it's happening. But yeah, that was like one of the coolest things. And I don't even remember how I started talking about this, but
Oh, the
but
the mist and Mom
oh yeah,
Odie being a
the
unique
myth. So
character,
I do love.
yeah.
Yeah, it's funny. I'm just going on a rant here, but
Oh,
I
I
guess
love it.
I love talking about this ride, and I know that you're excited for it too. So it's cool to talk about it. But I do love the mist. I'm not necessarily like concerned about the view being blocked because you can look at it when you quite literally cross it and go down. I think I'm more concerned about it being so strong that you can't even see the bottles illuminated because that
Oh,
the
yeah,
bottles
I
at the
didn't think
top are
about that.
illuminated so beautifully that you can actually
Mhm.
see them from in the park. And also, I think looking at those at the very top and then having that mist kind of like if that theory and rumor about the transformation being true is, I think that's a really cool theory. I love that theory. But I do love the mist. I think I'm more concerned about it being so strong that you either can't breathe because it's like up in your face, or you couldn't see the drop at the last second, which is a concern, and then not being able to see the bottles. So, like you said, none of this is final. Everything is still testing. They've got, at the time of this
Mhm.
recording, 2 more weeks to finalize everything. I love the mist. I just don't want it to be as strong as we saw the other night, where it was quite literally overflowing out of the drop. I think that
Yeah,
that's
I
way too
saw
much.
that.
But like you said, they're testing everything, and that was the only night since that we've seen that. So right now, it is the
Mhm.
outlier, and I'm hoping that it stays that way. But we shall see. We still got a couple weeks to go.
Yeah, I didn't even think about the bottles because they are so, beautifully lit,
Yeah, they're
at least
gorgeous, and,
the
like, those
concept
are
art.
all, hand done and hand placed,
Mhm.
and the lights are great, and they look even better in person, like, the thing about, like, the photos and videos is they accurately represent what you see, but not necessarily to the brightness level or, like, the
Mhm.
audio level, so, like, those are the things that I'll never be able to fully translate with the content that I post, but everything that I've posted is accurate in the sense of the color and the actual facts with it, if that makes sense, so
Mhm. Yeah, and yeah. A lot of these things you just really gotta be there, in person because no video can ever do anything justice.
yeah, for sure.
It definitely helps out. And speaking of photos and videos, Disney released their on ride what the on ride photo is going to look like for
Mhm.
when you come down that plunge, and they may have revealed their own storyline in there,
They
with
did.
the drop being a shortcut, and you're going to find
Mhm.
some critters. What do you know? What can you talk about? What's going on in this story plot line
Yeah,
here?
so it's funny because like, I set my alarm at 7:50 in the morning yesterday because I thought that there was gonna be something happening in Magic Kingdom, and that's why I went to Magic Kingdom, but it didn't happen, so but we did get the information about the previews, and we got the PhotoPass photo, and At first, I was focused more on the virtual queue being dropped shortly after the 4th of July, which I'm very happy about because the
Mhm.
capacity on this attraction is incredible. It's proven to be reliable for over
Yeah,
30 years
thank
now.
goodness.
I'm so glad that they're dropping it, but
Yes.
that's the main thing that I was concerned about. And this isn't my theory by any means. People have been talking about this theory for months now, but everyone was wondering how is the 50-foot drop going to be addressed in a Bayou story? And then they dropped
Mhm.
the PhotoPass photo, and I'm looking at this Firefly, and it says, "We know a shortcut," and I'm like, did this team get this approved by Imagineering? Like, I was talking to one of my friends who I ran into at the park yesterday, and I'm like, I truly don't think that Imagineering is getting any say in what the promotional teams are doing because, quite frankly, I do not like at all that they revealed this. And it's like,
I
I
know
know
the
that the majority
total
of people would
plot
never
reveal.
pick up. Yeah, I know the majority of people would never pick up on it, but when you're putting it out there for people who are going to pick up on it, like myself, and you're going to post about it, I mean, at that point, it's all for game. Personally, I go
Mhm,
by if something is either officially revealed or if I can see it in
mhm.
here in the park, and that's when I talk
Yeah,
about it.
because then it's yeah, you're not hopping over any fences, you're not looking at any
Exactly.
permits, it's just
Yeah.
there. Yeah.
Mhm. And the fact that this little firefly is holding up a sign saying, "We know a shortcut," quite literally confirms that we are going to be going on the shortcut to the party, and I don't think that this should have been revealed. I can imagine that behind the scenes, Imagineering is unhappy with that. On top of the opening date being leaked that morning at 10 a.m. a couple days ago instead of being on American
Oh,
Idol.
yeah.
The story behind that is that a lot of the time, most of the time, they will post things between 8 a.m. in the morning and 10:30 a.m. in the morning if they're pretty big.
Mhm,
They've posted stuff in the afternoon around 1 p.m. Eastern before, but I know for
mhm.
a fact that that 10 a.m. thing was a placeholder because when they first dropped it, it
Almost
said,
like a scheduled post type of
yeah,
thing, yeah.
exactly. It was pre-scheduled, but someone forgot to
Yeah,
unschedule
to
it per se.
unschedule it, yeah.
And it literally said a TBD in the top left for the publish date, meaning that it had this like I literally have a screenshot of it. It says TBD. So it's like that was a big mess up. And like I really hope someone didn't lose their job. But like at the same
Yeah.
time, it's like when you expect creators like on the media list under embargo to not post stuff, how do you mess that up as a company yourself? You know what I mean?
Mhm,
So it's like
mhm.
between that being leaked and then like the storyline thing with the 50-foot drop being leaked, and quite frankly, I also think that they leaked the June 28th opening day. I talked about this on Twitter, but the Disney After Hours event ending on June 27th was, in my opinion, the main dead giveaway that this attraction was opening on June 28th.
Oh,
Because
yeah, oh, yeah, that would
last
make
year,
sense.
yeah, exactly. Because last year with Tron, we saw After Hours, and I think it was like March 26th, and then it opened on April 4th. So it's like it was already proven before with Tron. And then when I looked at After
Mhm,
Hours and it said it ended on June 27th, I'm like, all right, I need to post about this. And I did, and I was accurate, which I'm proud about because I truly put a ton of time into every single post, let alone speculation. Because even when I say I'm speculating, when I literally know nothing, people are going to take it as fact. They're like, oh, well, I'm
mhm.
following Drew and Drew said it. I know that there's going to be people that are like that,
Oh,
regardless of what
yeah,
I say.
it's happened to
So it's
me
like
too.
I have to be extremely careful about what I post about when it's speculation, even when I'm saying it's speculation. But thankfully, it opened when I said it was going to, so I can breathe about that. But it really is crazy just wrapping it all up. Like, how does stuff like this happen when you reveal something like that? Like, there's no point to reveal the PhotoPass photo before the ride opens because no one's going on it to buy the photo right now. Like, there's
Yeah.
absolutely there's no reason to reveal it. You know, it's like it's unnecessary information right now. Like, do I like the
Yeah,
PhotoPass
that
photo?
was
Yeah, I think it's
kinda
really cool. I love how like they have like the sign
weird.
hanging down with the lanterns, and it's a little more animated and feels more like
Mhm,
the movie, like an animation style. And it features the
mhm.
critters, which I love. I love the original critters. I talked about that on the Living by Disney podcast that we did. But I think it's crazy that there's been so much miscommunication between these departments. And I understand people are human, and I understand that people aren't perfect. But when it's teams of people, you think that one person would catch it, especially when we're catching it as fans, and we don't even work for the company. So I quite
Yeah,
literally
and
think
they're
it's
doing it
impossible.
so fast, like, people
Yeah,
catch it in, like, 5 seconds.
especially when everyone is on social media, and especially when they're posting these things for us to see. When it's on Disney Parks blog, everyone's going to see it. That it's like I just don't understand how it's happening, but I really hope that they work on it for the future because quite frankly, I want these things to be surprises like they're intended to be with so we can experience it with our own eyes,
Mhm,
and also for the people working on the projects because they pour years of their life into these attractions, giving everything they have, and then for something like that to be revealed in an article, it's like yikes. That's the word that I use for it is yikes. And it's just, man, it
mhm.
sucks.
Yeah, yeah, especially with those pre-scheduled posts, because obviously they're days in advance, so you think
Mhm.
I'm doing like maybe a final check. Hey, it's coming out
Yeah.
tomorrow. Let's do a final check.
Yeah,
But
and
yeah, I don't know.
especially when the American Idol episode ended at 10 PM and it went up at 10 AM, I'm quite literally wondering if someone misclicked AM and
Yeah,
PM.
and probably that probably is what's going on, Ashley.
Yeah.
Because
Oh, man, but,
that's this morning.
what's done is done, right? And, everyone picked
Yeah,
up on
yeah.
it, and we know it's opening on the 28th, and that's what happens, so too late now.
28th, and then we got some previews happening. I believe. But when's the first preview?
Yeah,
And
so
what is the
Magic
first
Kingdom
preview?
cast members only are going on June 2nd. But I know
Mhm,
for a fact that on May 30th and May 31st, Disney's doing one of their big B-roll shoots for the commercials and promo material.
mhm,
So as of May 29th, this attraction quite literally has to be done because on the 30th is when they kick it into filming, and then Magic Kingdom cast is on the 2nd, and then all of
mhm,
cast is on the 3rd, and then from there, previews and then opening day is going to be here in the blink of an eye. So
mhm.
we, at the
Yeah,
time of
and
this recording, we're literally 2 weeks out, which is insane.
they're getting ready because I think was it you that posted the picture of the video of the camera on the log? They're getting ready. So
Yeah, yeah,
somebody
yeah.
posted
Last
on. Yeah,
night. Last night,
yeah.
was the first time. I mean, I knew weeks ago that they were gonna be doing promotional material with the camera,
Mhm,
but that's not inside information. They did that with Tron, they do that with everything. It's super cool
mhm.
actually how they literally rig these ride vehicles
Yeah,
with a professional
mhm.
camera. It's one of the coolest things they do for media, and I absolutely love that they do it. But at first I thought it was an Imagineer holding up a poncho in front of their face, and then it came down, I'm like, "Oh, no, that's an
That's
actual
the
camera."
camera.
And it's funny because after the camera went down, they walked the track to make sure that nothing flew out. So I actually think that that was the
Mhm,
first time that they sent it down, and that's just
mhm.
another, thing where it's like that's one of those things where you can never expect it to happen, but it's one of those in the moment, and I pulled out my camera and I got it and I posted it and I'm like, "There we go."
Mm. Yeah, that's what, and it's pretty cool how these parks, even like the bit with bigger roller coasters, how they put these cameras on and they just go through these inversions. I'm like, dang, that's
Yeah, there
crazy.
there's so
Oh,
much happening behind the scenes just to make these places operate daily. It's a miracle, but just more specifically about Tiana, everything happening right now as we're recording this before it's revealed to the world and the final checks and final approvals and years worth of work to being like, "All right, we're done. Let's go."
yeah, and so as you mentioned, Tiana's is done in 2 weeks.
Mhm.
So what's next for you? Obviously,
Yeah,
writing
man.
it,
I
but
mean, I'm
in terms of photo updates, will you be going over to if they let's assume the next project is Animal Kingdom or something to start? Will you
yeah.
be going over there and documenting that?
Yeah, so it's funny you mentioned that because, this has been something that I've been thinking about for weeks now. It's like I'm gonna be losing something that I love so much, but I know that that's a very,
Mhm.
like, original experience, you could say, because I've quite literally been the only person in Magic Kingdom this much documenting one attraction. But it's been like a part of my weekly routine, and just being back in Frontierland with it being so quiet and having this area of
Mhm.
the park in a way that's never going to be like that again, at least, for the next 20 or 30 years before something changes or until Big Thunder goes down in January, February for the retrack. It's been really cool experiencing the park in such a unique way. And it's going to be bittersweet for me losing that, but also having the attraction open is exactly why I've been doing this because I'm so excited for it. So being able to document the ride itself and pick up all of the details on the ride itself, I think is what I'm going to do next is kind of break down the ride in every little detail.
Ah,
But
smart. Like
yeah,
scene by scene, see what's going.
kind of
I
like
like that.
go on it as many times as I can and then take it in and
Mhm.
being like, all right, pointing out things that no one else has and kind of breaking it down the entire story, every scene, like you said. But the unique thing about this attraction that I don't know if we'll ever see again, I quite literally can't think of another attraction that's like this, is how accessible it is. You can
Mhm.
almost experience the entire thing from all the way around, from the front left corner over by Pecos Bill, all the way around to the
Mhm.
very back in the queue by the bathrooms behind Big Thunder Mountain. Like when the walls go up at Test Track, I'll be able to see everything from the monorail. But like, Test Track Breathe theme, it's going to be incredible. It's getting a very nice budget. We're getting a great
Mhm.
improvement with that, but it's nowhere near the importance and significance of this retheme. So it's like,
Mhm.
will I be able to document the Test Track stuff? Absolutely. But more like you said with Animal Kingdom with Dino Land, like the walls are going to go up outside and we're not going to be able
Yeah,
to
they
see
can't
any.
really, yeah, see
Yeah, you
anything.
it's just not accessible. So it's like as much as I'm gonna, unless they quite literally start building the casita for the Encanto attraction before Dinosaur closes, that's the only way I'm
Mhm.
gonna be able to document like the casita being built. But that's something that I've been thinking about is that's what I would love to document because they're quite literally gonna be building that from the ground up and being able to have hundreds of pictures and videos of this casita being built over, a couple of years would be incredible to look back at, especially for such a major movie like Encanto that's so beloved in such a short time frame. But I think that this attraction has quite literally changed how I view content as a whole, because
Mhm.
there's so many content creators out there, which isn't a bad thing by any means, but I've kind of found my slot in this community of what people like me for
Mhm.
now and what people have gotten to know me for. And to be able to document these attractions on such a high level and share what I love with everyone else has been something that I've loved. And it's been even better than I could have ever expected or dreamed of. But going forward, it's kind of like what is going to be accessible to the point that I can do something like this. And I don't think we're going to see anything like that. So I'm kind of concerned on that front. But at the same time, I can only do so much that I'm able to. So I'll definitely be doing that going
Mhm.
forward for everything.
Yeah, and hey, you'll have plenty of opportunities, like you said, you because I'm sure there'll be set plenty of details inside the show building of Tiana itself. So you have plenty of ride-throughs and plenty of little details and fun facts and things to document,
Mhm.
at least for the next
Absolutely.
several months, I'd imagine.
Yeah, for sure. And just knowing that that's coming in about 3 weeks is crazy. It's like I've been out there for so many months now, and I'm like peeking through the mesh, and I'm like, soon I'm gonna be in that log, and it's just I don't think
Mhm.
it's gonna hit me until I've been on it a few times. But I'm seriously so glad that they're doing these previews and it's opening before the 4th of July, because
Did
Magic
you get
Kingdom
your
absolutely needs it.
slot, your preview slot?
Yeah, so I'll be park hopping from Epcot to Magic Kingdom on the 13th, and I'll try to get a group at 1 o'clock.
Nice.
So I know for a fact on the 13th I'll have a chance to go on it, but my best friend of 4+ years has already offered to take me to cast member previews on June 3rd or June 5th.
Oh,
If
nice.
if we can record our reaction. I don't want to record to post content, quite honestly. I just want to enjoy
Mhm.
it with my own eyes. But I want to get my reaction because I did that with Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway. And over
Mhm.
4 years later, I still love that I did that. And I want to do that with this, especially because I'm so excited for this. So my first ride will depend on if filming is allowed at CM previews, not to necessarily post about it. And that's something that
Yeah.
I don't want to do per se, because if I'm a guest at a cast member preview, I want to be respectful of that. I've already
Mhm.
made that mistake before and filmed at a cast member preview, and I feel horrible about it to this day. But
Mhm.
I really just want to get my reaction, quite honestly, just to have to look back at.
Yeah, and yeah, and I mean, if anything, like later on, like when it's officially open, if you want to post it, that's
Yeah, absolutely. The
then
attraction's not
okay.
going anywhere, but I only have one chance in
Yeah,
my entire life to get that reaction, so I will wait if I have to. I'm ready to wait.
yeah. Because so that's cool. So they'll be writing it in just like 3 weeks for
Yeah,
June 5th, which is nice. Like, boy, I cannot wait. I hope if you don't get at least to film your reaction, I hope you get to tweet your emotions through words
yeah,
because I can't wait to
I'll
hear.
definitely record a video the second I get off, like, kinda, like, saying, like, "Whoa, that was incredible." I think that I think that the words in it that's going to come to my mind and already has come to my mind is, "That was incredible." Like, that's what I'm picturing I'm going
Mhm.
to say, but I'm definitely gonna wait to record my reaction on ride, and then I'll keep that video going the second I get off the log, and I know that that's gonna be a video that I look back at for the rest of my life, and as weird as it may sound, I'm glad that it hasn't happened yet, because once it happens, it's happened, and you only have that first experience once for everything in life. So the fact that we're 3 weeks out from that, I'm like, "All right, I'm okay that this hasn't happened yet, because once it happens, it's done, and then
It's
it's like, what's
done, and
next?"
you're like,
You know?
yeah, like you said, you probably won't have another opportunity like that for like 30 some years. So I'm like,
Yep,
definitely have to cherish it. And so
exactly. Yeah, cherish is the perfect word.
and Disney World itself, what are you optimistic for the Disney World's future expansions at all parks? What do you think's coming? You think D23 will have some good stuff going for Disney World, Disneyland? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I don't like to be a false positive person, but I feel like most of the time I genuinely just am positive. I love these parks more than anything. But quite honestly, I know that we've gone through a not so great time with the company as a whole. But to be fair, if you look back at things like in the past, the parks haven't always been a gold mine of getting new things every single year. Like the parks have been through rough patches in the past. The only difference is
Mm,
that we didn't have social media. So it wasn't as
yeah.
easy to complain about. When now everyone has one of these, and you can say something to people that you would never say to their face, and I absolutely
Or you can
despise that
also
about social
take a
media.
picture of things, every
Mhm.
little mark
It's
you can
insane
take a
how much these
picture.
little phones can do these days, but that's
Mhm,
why I just stick to posting news on social media, because there's already so much negativity. I wanna be a positive source, not just to be
mhm.
positive for no reason, but quite frankly, because I love what I talk about, and that's what I care about at the end of the day. But to answer your question with the resort's future. I'm extremely optimistic for it because we're kind of out of this period where things were being held back by budgets and operational costs and whatever goes
And
on behind the scenes to make
yeah, political reasons and all that good terrible stuff.
exactly.
Looks like
And just
there's
the
I
fact that
finally
we're
see a light,
yes,
especially
exactly.
in Anaheim too, with the city council approving
Mhm.
this and owns can do whatever on the land on. So it's like a nice light at the end of both coast tunnels. Which,
Yeah,
fingers
exactly, because
crossed,
we like you said,
good
we saw
stuff.
political differences with DeSantis out here in Florida and even with Gavin Newsom out in California, but the fact that
Mhm.
we are at a point right now where the company has great relationships with both to where we got the settlement for the CTFOD out here in Florida and we've got Disneyland Forward approved out in California, that is exactly what we could want as fans. And out here more specifically with Florida, the fact that Epic Universe is going to force Disney's hand eventually,
Yeah,
and
to
I
do
think that's why we're
something.
starting to see more stuff happening behind the scenes.
Mhm.
So I think that these next 10 years specifically at Disneyland are going to be incredible with Disneyland Forward. That's going to be stuff that we look back at for the rest of our lives, like what's happening now with Tiana for me personally. And with Disney World, I should say, not Disneyland. With Disney World, I
Mhm.
think Disney World is going to be incredible with what we're getting specifically with Beyond Big Thunder. I think that's going to be an absolutely incredible expansion. I think that what they're planning right now with that, I don't know what it is at all, but I think that whatever they decide on for Beyond Big Thunder will be incredible for Magic Kingdom. I just really hope that we don't lose the railroad by any means or make the path shorter for the riverboat because I
Mhm.
love the energy that the riverboat and the train add to Magic Kingdom, kind of like that more classic Disney vibe. But I really do think
Mhm.
that what we've been seeing these last 4 years is them kind of figuring out what they want to do to get the train back on track, so to say. And now that
Nah.
we're seeing so much talk about these characters, specifically Josh D'Amaro really loves the characters I picked up on these last 2.5 years. And I think that bringing these characters to life in more natural ways is phenomenal. And the fact that we're seeing that in the parks now is incredible. And now that they're starting to get very serious with the investment, I know that they're talking about the super turbocharging, I should say, not supercharging, turbocharging the parks. I don't like that they're saying that word so much, it's getting annoying at this point. But
I
I do
know they
love
see
that
like
they're
every chance they
yeah,
can get.
yeah, I mean, I understand why they do it. It's just the business side and the PR language. I get it. I talk that way with my posts. I totally get it. But it's annoying to an extent. But I think all that matters is that they're putting money into things, and the fact that
Mhm.
they're doing that now is incredible, and we're getting it, and that's what matters. I know everyone's like, "Oh, they haven't done anything." I'm like, we've gotten so much stuff. It's just like I said. In my opinion, it all comes back to social media and the fact that we constantly are waiting for what's new, and it's like I know I always talk about what's new with my social, so it might sound a little bit hypocritical, but deep down as a Parks fan, I'm totally fine if we don't get a new attraction every year. There's always something that they can do, even if it's on a smaller scale, to bring a new experience, whether it's a character experience or a show or a parade. It doesn't always have to be a multi hundred
Or
million.
refurbishment.
Exactly. Yeah. It's not realistic to expect so much when it's like, yes, we do have a ton of land out here, and Disneyland even has land too. But if you do too much too quickly, it's going to affect the quality of it. And even 20 years down the road, they have to be thinking that way because that time is going to go by regardless. And they're going to have to
Mhm.
do new things then. So if you do too much too quickly, it's not good either. And even if they do new stuff now, people are still going to complain. No matter what they do, no one can win. So I think that to answer your question, the parks are completely fine as long as they keep the mindset that they have now of investment in the division of the company that keeps the company afloat. The one thing that I will say that I don't like is how much money they're putting into the streaming and the movies, which I know they're cutting back on. But when you're spending $9 billion on media content and you're seeing cuts at the parks, that's what sits wrong with me personally. When
Mhm.
you're putting so much money into something that's not profitable yet, and the parks are a gold mine, and the parks are also physical. Nothing beats physical in my mind. I think that
Mhm.
that's where you kind of draw the line of, okay, this isn't right, at least in my mind.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, when you start cutting from like basically it feels like you're taking money from your most successful thing and filtering it to underperforming things, and then therefore the most successful thing starts to suffer and
Mhm.
maybe like invisible ways like up chargers, like lightning lane increases, like things like that, or smaller food portions but not the same
Yes,
price, everything.
absolutely.
That's what all that stuff really comes from. Pouring money towards underperform things like streaming. So hopefully, I know they said Disney Plus will be profitable at the end of this year. So hopefully, maybe that the parks will get they won't get so much of a suction cup of money, and they'll get just kind of reinvestment, which it seems like is happening based on
Yeah,
current
I
information
100% agree
from
with you, and
Disney
I
World's
think that
side.
those little things really do matter because we've always been trying to know what the Disney difference is or what the Disney
Hmm.
difference should be. So when you start to see things go away from that, it's like, no, you cannot do that. At that point, it's not Disney anymore. So I do hope we start to see more of. I know they've done a lot of it, life improvements, along with more investment to say that we truly care about the guest experience, to where we just see things continue to trend upward. And something that I've thought about for a while that I haven't really talked about is if they're going to continue to charge for the attractions, which we know they're going to, put that money into new attractions and then it continues to
Hmm.
snowball because we know that they're making a ton of money off Genie Plus and Lightning Lane and now. So if they can forecast what a brand new attraction from the ground up would make off Genie Plus and Lightning Lane, then give that attraction a bigger budget as a result because you know that you're going to get that return immediately. So I'm hoping that that's
Hmm.
something that management considers with individual Lightning Lane charges and Genie Plus is because they know that they can incentivize attractions and make money off of them immediately now. So I'm hoping that we start to see more investment because of that. And I think that might be the only positive that we could see out of Genie Plus.
Yeah, that would be good to refilter the money into the thing that's making the money. Because that's really the only positive way to do it.
Hmm.
But man, Mr. Drew, thank you so much for joining on
Absolutely,
this
man. I
great,
appreciate you.
very fun
I appreciate
discussion.
you inviting me on because like I have so many opinions about the parks and they are mostly positive.
Mhm.
Like a lot of the times I'll be walking around the parks and I'll just stare at stuff and I'm like, that's so cool that this place exists. Like I think about life on a very deep level, but more specifically Disney because it's like the main thing I care about in my life. But I truly do love about these parks. And while I don't talk about them a lot, being able to do something like this is pretty cool. So thank you for letting me talk to you about it for the last hour.
Oh, you're welcome. And hey, everyone joining or watching afterwards, make sure to subscribe to the Disney Drew Dude on Twitter and YouTube for his coverage on Splash Mountain's opening day in
Yes.
just a few weeks.
It's pretty crazy
That's
that
right.
we'll be looking back on this conversation soon once we both get to go on Tiana here at Walt Disney World and Disneyland. But like I said, that's why I'm cherishing these moments now because neither of us have. Once that passes, it's gone. So this is what I
I
think
know.
about,
Then
man.
it's just boom, it's gone. That's just crazy.
Hmm.
But yeah, ooh, and you're coming out in August. You said right?
Yeah, I'll be out there in August for a work trip with Serena and Louisa for our Living by Disney coverage at D23. So I'm super pumped for that. And I think it's appropriate that I'll be at Disneyland on my birthday on August 8th to document Tiana
Oh,
construction. So it's kind of like
perfect.
a full circle moment that I'll get to document Disneyland's on my birthday. So I think that's cool. And I'm looking forward to that.
Ah, amazing. And everyone, subscribe here to Theme Park Wizard and have a Tiana-rific day. Boom,
Have a
boom, boom.
beautiful night.